for the changes and challenging environment that UNDP is facing, it's really important that we understand how important it is to have people that really know the national context. In my opinion, if we don't value that understanding of national context and understanding specifically what a country is going through, what its culture, what the demands of its people, the hopes of its government, and all of these very specific elements of a particular context. If we don't have that expertise at hand, if we don't invest in national staff, for example, who are more willing to go out into the field, to work with civil society, to really be able to roll up their sleeves and be part of capacity building efforts, then we won't be able to really compete. And I say that because I think as more countries in the region become middle income and more donors are interested in direct budgetary support, it's important for UNDP to identify where we will have that added value, where we can see ourselves as an organization that can change with changing times and realize that there's still so much to be done on the ground. There's still so much need. When we talk about our overarching goal for the next 15 years to improve the lives of the most vulnerable and to think about how we're going to leave no one behind, well, it can't just be about the business as usual that we've been conducting. It's really about getting out there and talking to the people and understanding how we can make that investment best through what I believe is expertise of the local context, local language, and rapport building to make sure that we have real partnerships. Obviously, private sector has a big role to play, and I think that private sector understands that. But I think that, again, each context is different, and we need to look for ways to broaden partnerships, to understand that private sector at a certain level does not have the means themselves to invest in their own expansion, so that we need to be looking at broadening partnerships, innovating partnerships, and looking for ways to support smaller private sector entities to be able to reach out and grow themselves. With regard to the larger private sector groups, I think that pushing for that social corporate responsibility is obviously a good approach. I think we need to do more of that. I think that that is something that we should build expertise on. I think we've seen a lot in the last decades of the big companies that want to do something and want to give back. And so it's a bit there for the taking, and then I think we need to understand better how we can approach those big mega companies and make sure that they're helping us get the job done. Okay? As I was saying, with regard to country offices, I think we are going to need to look at ourselves and analyze what kinds of skills we'll need to be a different kind of partner. It is my strong belief that investing in civil society and building capacity for ordinary people, for ordinary folks, for ordinary groups is the path. I think that we've seen a big shift in the world, what we see a great divide economically between those that have and those who don't, and that our strategy needs to change to make sure we are able to work with those who don't have the means to help themselves. I think we need to have people who are inspired, who are able to inspire others, and to really be able to look for the right kind of staff that can get out there and work with civil society groups, with NGOs, and with individuals. In Samoa, for example, we have a youth employment program, which we're going to be expanding to work with all vulnerable groups, that looks for private sector groups, church groups, educational institutions such as vocational and technical schools, and we're looking for and building actually partnerships to enable young people and others who don't have a lot of hope and opportunity to find those opportunities. I could, share with you a few examples of what we're doing in Samoa. In one case, we're working with the top restaurants and top hotels who have decided to give back to the community by training school leavers, young mothers, to become assistant chefs. And so now, as the restaurant community is booming, UNDP is heavily involved in helping other NGOs that work with youth in trouble with the law to be able to connect to those kinds of programs where private sector has taken an initiative to do something. We're also working a lot with the vocational schools to get kids who are off on the street, out of school and on the street, back into school, and to get access to develop trades, and helping groups figure out how they can actually establish their own small businesses through what we call a small business incubator. And that we're doing with government, with the Ministry of Women, and with many partners. We need to get out there more, get out in the field, and by the field, I don't mean inside the country office. I actually mean inside the villages, inside the small towns, and working with ordinary civil society groups that are trying to make a difference but don't necessarily know how.